I'm struggling with sending this back, not anticipating a different result. I struggle with a remand if we think we're going to get the same answer.
Well, John, we
Call the question.
okay. Call the question, and we'll take the vote. I'll start with John.
No.
No.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, it will be remanded back with parking as the issue, specific times. That's how I get that. 9, noon, and 9 and 2 is already done, so somebody said the noon hour. And
Can we fill in those details?
we
have
don't,
to do them right
no,
now?
well, that's what they're going to need to know why we're remanded it back to them, and is on parking
Have to
issues.
do it
We need specific information. This is the time to
Yep.
say what that specific information that is missing that the board could not have had at that time period.
Okay, so in the Board of Adjustment minutes, Long requests these things. He asked the same request. He doesn't have the times listed, but he had the same thing. So on page 8 of 9 in the board minutes, and Comstock spoke about this as well, and he had reservations about the parking. So I guess what my request then is in part, the cumulative effect, which is criteria number 7, can't be met because we don't know the impact. So that means we have to be more specific in the times that are taken. So to fulfill that requirement, then we need to fulfill with going on with the schools and businesses times that are open, and maybe we need to do it hourly.
So you want a
It's an educational
traffic study hourly done? Is that what
I
you're
think
saying?
noon would be fine.
I mean,
Okay, I don't know. That's why I'm talking about it.
I think
I
noon
just-
would be
I know
fine.
more needs to be done by what was stated in the minutes.
Yeah, 11 to 1 time zone would encompass that. And that doesn't leave a whole lot of hours in the day if you do an 11 to 1 plus the other 2 sets of time. But also keep in mind the point made by staff is that we may not be getting the data that we think we're getting because we'll be taking this study in order to meet the statutory requirements for response from the Board of Adjustment. It's going to be outside of the normal
Right.
school time, so things may have changed from the original study, so we have to tread very gently with our
Well,
interpretation.
that's just the consequence we have, Art.
Yep.
Because this body's making that decision, and so that's the way it's going to be. So there you have it.
How long is the study then? How long does it go for? Is it 5 days like the other ones?
It's ultimately up to council to decide that if it's sufficient enough to meet the overall demands.
Bill, you got a point on that one?
On the duration of the study?
Well, they wanted to know how long would this traffic study have to take? So a 2-week period, a 1-week period,
Prior assessment we did
Monday
was
through
during-
Fridays and skip weekends? How's that work?
Prior assessment we did was in a 5-day period during a work week.
Okay.
We could replicate that and capture the noon time, if that's all the council wishes the board to consider.
Gary?
Which is what I'm trying to determine. Are you asking for that one period during the noon time, noon to 1 o'clock? Is that the study that you wish to have
Well,
additional data?
you got 9 a.m. and you got 2 p.m. Jim had said 11 a.m. to 1.
11 to 1, I think would encompass everything that the dissenting members of the board felt was inadequate information and the appellant felt was inadequate information.
Okay. I'm being advised by Les that typically these counts are done at finite times. That's why you have it at 9 and 3. So you can't do it over a 2-hour period. You could do one at 11, one at 12, and one at 1. You could do one at 11, one at 1, and any mixture of those.
Well, I think you've got 9 a.m. and you got 2 p.m. Seems to me if you're going to do this, 11 and 1 would be reasonable.
That's the whole day.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you want a traffic study done at 11 o'clock a.m. and 1 o'clock p.m.
I'd be fine with that.
For
just-
5 days.
Is this going to require a
weeks.
motion?
And just to clarify, we're looking, this was only 600 feet from the property. So it was essentially a 2-block area. That same area is what you wish to have assessed, just at a different time.
It would have to be within the realm of that. I mean, you don't want to go completely out of the central business district. That makes no sense. So it's got to be relative.
Good.
Or it wouldn't be relative. You go down Jackson Street, which people are, or Washington, when people are going through town, you're getting everything bypassed into downtown, too. So that wouldn't be, but I think we're clear on it. There's nothing else you want to add, is there?
No, mostly just, I thought that there was something in the minutes that was talking about parking within a half a mile.
That was the required parking mitigation would have to be located within that distance.
So if that's part of the mitigation, wouldn't you have to look at those too? You don't?
We were just looking at public parking in the downtown system. Half mile reaches outside the central business district,
Right.
some distance. So
Yeah.
we wouldn't be assessing all public parking in that area. We would just be, we were looking at what was in the immediate vicinity that supports the businesses and other properties in the immediate area.
What the staff's looking for is, it's got to be specific for Board of Adjustment, Catherine, or it's going to be a hodgepodge all over town, which won't work, because they've got to have a specific area. If you do the entire town,
No,
a half a mile or wherever this parking may or may
No,
not
that's
be.
why I was asking, because half a mile was one of the mitigations.
Where you would put it.
That's where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
that's
where-
how far out
doesn't
it
mean
goes.
that's
That's
where
like
you're-
to the university.
Yeah, that's not where you're going to be testing people driving.
Okay.
Also, as part of that, could include the 3 scenarios listed for the parking comparison, plus the educational institution component.
Yes.
And then ask the board, are you good with where it was, where you decided, or would one of these others be more appropriate in their opinion? So that they aren't.
Okay, so we're clear, we'll repeat the study, 5-day time period, 600 feet. We'll do a count during the noon hour.
Sure.
In addition, we'll do the 9 and 2 again. We can then correlate, essentially, if there's a 20% increase during the lunch hour in those areas, we can correlate that to the data that existed and was collected previously. And that's probably the best available information that we could gather for the board at this time. I guess I'm trying to understand the instruction of looking at the different scenarios versus the educational institution. The board did consider that at that time. Certainly, the council can request them to reevaluate that determination if that's what the council wishes to see.
Yeah.
That would be fine by me, just a reevaluation, get a real look at it, because they just sailed right through.
I saw the same thing.
Okay, and that determination is requested, comes from these 3 counselors, the 2 that were nay on the votes weren't part of it. So should we move on to number 2?
Just for clarification, going to ask, you're remanding it back
Yep.
for a specific study during the noon period. That's an additional one that you want is 12 p.m.?
I think they've said 11 and 1 is what I.
Yeah, that's what we want to clarify. What is
11
it?
and 1.
11 and 1,
Yep.
okay. And then you also want them to do another comparison. Any specific instructions on one you want it to compare it to, or what they should compare it to?
I'll remand it to Art, because he's the one.
Specific instructions looking at what exists outside the central business district for the various uses that were listed up there, plus the educational uses, and have them re-examine that, and then re-examine the calculus that went into subtracting the offset use in the central business district from the educational use to arrive at the parking mitigation that they got, the result being 47 spaces, and ask them to re-examine that calculus and make sure that that's actually what they wanted to do.
Right.
I think they already did that.
Okay.
I'm not so sure.
If I may, that's I'm struggling a little bit with that. If the council wants to direct a different calculation that they'd wish them to consider, then I certainly understand that direction to reevaluate what they did previously. I guess
I think they need to go back and look at exactly, is that the best calculation to be using? Is that what they really meant? Because they kind of, 47, and ran with it, and there was no discussion of any of the other scenarios.
I think it was because that's what they did in the prior CUP.
It might be, but
That was what we talked about, yes.
Yeah,
That was the decision process from the prior CUP. So there is a precedent there.
In that case,
So I would almost find that insulting if I was the Board of Adjustment, that, oh, wait, are you sure?
yeah, that's exactly.
Well, they made a solid decision, I believe, with the process the first
So
time.
I'd just like to have that stated clearly, that we use this calculus because of, it makes most sense for what is there that we want to mitigate.